Hello and welcome back to Sentient Mind on today, Friday the 31st of January 2025. How you doing, Jack?
Yeah, very well. Very excited for today. More big news again.
Oh, it's always exciting. It's always fun. Like, this is just a great space to be in, talking about AI. And so today we're going to talk about Tesla. Loads of news coming out of Tesla. Tesla's quarterly earnings call happened this week, just a couple of days ago. And Elon's always great for announcing a few different things that you weren't expecting in there. We're going to cover a lot of the latest LLM news. There's lots that's happened again this week. We're going to talk about a tool called Bland AI, which is an awesome tool for phone call automation, really kind of taking things up another level again. And talking about taking things up another level, we're going to talk about another tool, which is a personal AI technology that just learns everything about you. It's ever present, ever with you. And I won't spoil it anymore, but it's agentic. It's quite incredible. So awesome. We're going to cover that as well in today's news, and also we'll just round up with a few short stories, right?
Yes.
So we'll start off with Tesla.
Yes.
I guess just before the earnings call, they released a video. So I think we should show that first, shall we?
Yes. Yeah. Let's get it up.
So this is full self-driving.
Patiently waiting on my dreams to come true, hoping and praying one day that they do. Oh, I don't know how, and I don't know when, just patiently waiting till then. Patiently waiting each day that goes by, staring out windows at stars in the sky, imagining one day I'll be one of them, but patiently waiting till then.
Okay, so that was a video that came out from Tesla this week. That's at their factory in Fremont. So that is the cars literally coming off the production line, driving themselves out of the factory, and driving them into a space. And it's not just they're taking the next available space. They've got a space that they need to go to, that they get assigned to when they leave the factory, because that's where the lorry will come to pick up them up to take them out to delivery. So the lorry comes along, which is human driven at the moment, but with the not the Cybertruck, the what's called the semi truck, which Tesla has coming out. I'm sure that's going to autonomously pick up the cars and drive them to people's houses as well. And then they won't drive the cars when they get them, because they'll be autonomous cars probably. So, so I mean, really nice video, like the music that goes with it and everything. It's quite nice.
Yeah, it was almost comedic, wasn't it? Just like, oh, let's just have a bit of fun with it. But it's so impressive because that's just showing, like, this was what you say for the shareholders meeting or the quarterly report.
Well, yeah, I mean, that video came out a few days before that, but yeah, so that's the video. That's from Fremont, but they're going to do the same in Austin at the moment. And I think their cars drive about 1.5 miles, but they're just literally coming out every few seconds, these cars. Because I mean, I guess that's one thing from the earnings call. They said that they sold 2 million vehicles in Q4 last year, 2025, and Model Y became the best-selling car, full stop, worldwide, not just electric car, just the best-selling car worldwide.
That's a mad stat, isn't it? Because I mean, Tesla kind of came out of nowhere, really, in the automotive industry. Like 10 years ago, maybe Tesla was just creeping onto the scene.
New car companies don't come along, and succeed. Like it's been so hard. Like the amount of capital you need and the ability to get like a car company off the ground. Lots have tried and lots have failed. Like that's why there's been so many like long-term incumbents like Ford. But you can't. I mean, I always think Elon, like, you just can't put back against him, right? Like, he said he was going to do it, and he did it. I mean, they almost went bust like several times, Tesla, and like by the skin of his teeth. He used a lot of his own money in like that and SpaceX. Like, he was down to like his last millions when there was a time I remember, like,
poor bloke, last millions. It's tough.
I mean, he was a multi-billionaire, and he spent like, I mean, like money doesn't mean so much to him, I guess. Like, he's got other things, but I mean, I don't know if you've read the story or seen the story, but like when he had Tesla and like SpaceX, literally there was a time when they were both almost going to fail.
Mhm.
Like at the same time, they were both underwater. Because it was two huge companies trying to get off the ground, and he was just spending his own money just keeping them afloat. And there was a day, I think he said that he just thought, this is it, like it's
Really?
over. And like then he just suddenly the next day or whatever got some funding and it just turned things around. And on SpaceX, it was the last rocket. They'd run out. They'd done like 2 or 3 failed launches. 2, I think.
Mhm.
It's just so expensive just to get one launch off the ground.
Yeah.
And it was at the time. I mean, they've much reduced the cost, but they had like one more shot like at it. That's and they were out of money. If they got that and it succeeded, then they were going to get investment from the government and NASA and all that. It didn't, and it was going to fail. So
yeah, I mean, creating I know this section is about Tesla, but creating a rocket company is like, I mean, it's just not even feel fathomable for most people, is it?
No.
I'm gonna build a space rocket company. Like
all the stuff is like absolutely on its own, like one company. Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, like Optimus, like the humanoid robots. Any one of these on their own are like enormous undertakings, and like one-of-a-kind companies, right? It's all one company. So
Tesla is as you say, it's got to be one of the most impressive success stories in the automotive industry ever.
Mhm.
Because I mean, when was the last time? I know there's a couple of, certainly in the UK, we've seen a couple of Chinese companies sort of appear out of nowhere. BYD is the one that comes to mind. So seeing more and more of those. But other than that, I can't really think of any car companies that have come through and become mainstream.
Mhm.
You know, like I say, 10 years ago, seeing a Tesla was quite, well, I don't know if it was 10 years ago, but even like 8 years ago or 7 years ago, seeing a Tesla, that's a Tesla. That's, that's really rare. Like you don't see those. And now, well, it's got to be one of the most common cars on the road.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's just insane.
Yeah.
So how does it come through in the quarterly sales, apart from there's
that.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Well, that Model Y stat is insane. Like
Yeah.
that's insane worldwide.
Yeah.
The best selling car. I mean, that's the best accolade to have probably in the motor industry.
Yeah.
Yes. Go on. Sorry. So other.
Yeah. I mean, specifically on the car, there's other stuff we talked about, obviously, but specifically on the car, in June, we said this year, they're going to have full self-driving driving around Austin in Texas. So that's where one of the factories are, but actually in the wild in the city, where you can rent a Tesla car for a taxi journey, basically.
And it's completely driverless.
Yeah.
So how does that play? So Austin is a city in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, this is my American geography. It's not good. So Austin's a city in Texas, and Texas in America. Did Texas make their own like laws? Like, is that legal?
Each state has to. Yeah, I mean, this is a benefit and a problem with like the US, right? So all the states have their own laws, and everything has to be passed individually by them. So so they're allowing like the first test of like these cars, and Elon described it as like dipping a toe in the water. He goes, then we'll dip another toe in the water, and then we'll dip a foot in the water. We want to make sure it's safe, for everybody.
But isn't it sometimes in reality that it's better to just dive in forward?
Yeah, well,
maybe not.
But I mean, it's impressive. So these cars are just going to be, because I mean, the reality is, and this is kind of the next bit apart as well, is that he mentioned overnight, because full self-driving is you can get in a lot of cars, right? So then the most modern ones, he goes, the only people who don't believe it, like the people who haven't experienced it, I just encourage you to go and experience it, because the modern cars within FSD, like people say, like he described it as like being a child, like you do it the first time, and it's just like you can't, it's unbelievable. And I think I think he mentioned that if you've got full self-driving, that, well, he did mention this, but like if you have bought it, you'll have it in your car, and then at some point you're going to be able to rent out your car. He said, like, so your utility of your car is going to go from like 10 hours to like 50 hours like every week, and it's like, he described it as like the biggest exchange of wealth, like you can't think of one that's bigger. But
this is interesting. I've not really even considered this. I mean, I kind of, in my head, I'd see in a world, the direction of travel being that actually you just don't own cars, and that they're just kind of vessels that are going around all the time, and
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like a ski lift, just going round and round and round, and you just get on
Mhm.
and you get off. But the way that I'm guessing the way that he's talking about it is you would still own a car. I mean, and this is a distribution of wealth, right? Because not everyone will be able to afford a Tesla, and so there will be those that have them and those that don't. But if you are an owner of Tesla, I guess what you're saying is there's no reason why you wouldn't rent out your car. Like, it's going to be sat idle for, maybe you're at work for 8 hours, you're not going to drive. I'll rent my car out for that period of time.
Yeah.
And is that's kind of how you're seeing it?
Yeah, I think you put times like on it. So there's a couple of things here. I guess there's the fully autonomous vehicles that they, there's at the event they did recently, which is the ones without steering wheels and without, and they'll be able to drive around. So the ones in Austin, I think, are going to be Model Ys. So
Right.
they're going to be cars with steering wheels. They're just going to be driving themselves.
Does that mean to say then that a human can intervene? I guess.
I don't know. I mean, I guess so. I mean, unless they change it and you just can't sit in the driver's seat and all that kind of stuff, or there's a certain part of, maybe they take the steering wheel off, but it's actually going to be Model Ys, not those full autonomous vehicles that they've got planned, I think.
So just be, and this is because I'm a little bit naive to all the things that's going on. So within Tesla's range, you've kind of got, is there a split between, is it cars that have steering wheels and cars that don't?
At the moment, it's all steering wheels,
right?
But the ones they've got planned are the Cybervan and the Cybervan and the Cyber Taxi.
Yes.
So those will be without steering wheels.
So no steering wheels at all.
No pedals, no steering wheels. Yeah.
And so, is there do you know if the makeup of the car is the same? Like, is it still?
Yeah, I think it's underneath. Yeah.
Driver's seat.
Yeah. Well, no, because I think it's. I don't know if there's going to be a different configuration at the moment. Yeah, there's still like 2 seats in the front and 3 seats in the back, I think, with those Cyber taxis.
Yeah.
But the Cyber van, it's like a sit around the edge.
Yeah. Okay.
Chat.
Yeah.
Kind of scenario, I think.
Interesting. I guess car safety has been designed, is innovated based on that setup, so that might be a player in that decision. Interesting. Okay, cool. So yes, you were saying in Austin they're going to have the current cars with steering wheels, with pedals, with fully autonomous.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to take them off or whatever. I don't know how that's going to work.
Yeah.
Because you don't want people to probably just to take over and drive them. I don't know. I don't know how it's quite going to work. I don't know the full details, but.
Well, I guess in that example, where, in the Austin example, are people going to own the cars, or is it all going to be funded by Tesla?
No, it's not funded. Like you'll pay for it. You'll hire it like a taxi.
And the cars are owned by Tesla.
Yes, but this is because it's temporary. The plan ultimately is to roll it out to everybody soon. And you're saying about an expense, like they're talking about like these cyber taxis being something like 25 grand or something like that, dollars.
Yeah,
like,
I've heard that.
So pretty cheap, low maintenance, and actually you might not work in the country, like we're a bit like out in the country at the moment, but if you were in a city like London or even like other big city, you could buy a fleet of these and they're just passively making you money because
interesting.
So yeah,
I mean, how does it compare? Because I suppose it completely changes the like, I don't know what the right word is, but the construct of purchasing a car. Like when you purchase a car right now, it's very much a cost. And it's a depreciating asset. It costs money to maintain it. It costs money to run it. But you buy it because it's a necessity. Like there's very few people buying cars because they're going to try and make money from it. I mean, excluding taxi drivers, limo drivers, couriers, all those kinds of people. But for the vast majority, it's a cost. And this is now suddenly, it's kind of almost being repositioned now as an investment, because if you can buy one of these cars, 25 grand is for the taxi, but let's say you can buy it for 50 grand, but you can do the maths and rent it out for whatever it is, 10p a mile or whatever per minute charge. That pricing model, it would be interesting to see how it like calibrates. But you can see a world where suddenly cars are assets and they make you money, like a rental house, like a property.
Yeah.
And obviously there's still going to be maintenance because it's a car. So you still need to pay to, get the tires done and whatever other mechanical bits. But actually it's an investment opportunity for people.
And these they've created the charging pads. You just have to drive over. You don't have to plug it in. You drive over them, and they charge off the ground. The charging off there. So, like if you had a fleet of these taxis, they literally just drive themselves back for a charge. when they're not being used, or if they need to just get a charge for a rotation or whatever. But I mean, I'm thinking about that. If the full self-driving and you hiring out your own car, like at the moment, that would be a car with a steering wheel and everything. But so I guess the person at the other end could drive it themselves, but you don't have to go and deliver it to them. The car will just drive off, go to the person who's hired it, and then they could choose to drive it or choose to sit in the back. Like,
it's interesting because I think part of what makes it like a viable investment is that you've got security. Like if you think about like car hiring companies right now, there's so much scrutiny about the condition of the car. You're liable for any offences whilst you're driving the car, speeding fines, all that kind of stuff. And like, when you give the car back to the hire company, depending on how sophisticated it is, they'll probably go around with a camera and take about 50 pictures of the car. Yeah. And if there's even a nick on it, that'll be coming back to you. Whereas in this version of the world, you've kind of got some kind of stability because there's this very, very narrow bar of operating, behavior, I suppose, that you would expect from your car if it's being driven automatically. It's not going to speed, it's not going to crash into stuff or whatever with a very, very high confidence. And so that's what makes it viable. Like renting out a car, like if let's say hypothetically you wanted to start a rental car company, like it would just like you just put off immediately because of the risk associated with it's just other people can drive, and there is a really bad culture around rental cars, certainly in the UK. People do drive them like nuts. It's not theirs, they don't care. So it's really, I think that's really interesting. I haven't even thought about it from that perspective.
Oh, really?
Right now, yeah,
really,
right now.
Oh, wow. Yeah. No, I think this is something that's been coming. But I think I forgot what I was going to say there, but like, I think that is coming. Like, and that was it. So, I mean, they're going to come to Europe in 2026 as well. So, he said
lagging behind.
Well, there's a couple of regions that's lagging behind. One, regulatory, which is what we expect, right? So there's in China and in Europe, like there's regulatory things that need to be overcome before they can actually have full self-driving in Europe's roads. But also, Elon did mention, these cars are really good at driving themselves in the US at the moment. It's just because of the training data, I guess. They recognize US signage, recognize US roads that are just different. In the UK, we've got a lot more A roads and windy roads and stuff like that. But he said, like, over time, they just become significantly, better as well. So that's coming. Right now, they're battery pack constrained. So they could make more cars. They just haven't got enough batteries. So they're building another mega pack factory, which is the third one.
Right.
Which helps them generate more battery packs. I'm not sure. I wasn't clear on the call whether some of that's for Optimus, like humanoid robots as well, or we're just still purely talking about cars at this point. But basically, that's the bottleneck at the moment for Tesla. But they're addressing that, as they always do, and we're just going to build it ourselves. So we just build another battery pack factory. So is that coming?
So battery packs it's literally just the production of that specific component rather than, because I mean, I've again naive to sort of this technology, but there's very specific, metals and materials that have to go into batteries, of which, because we live on Earth, it's finite. So has there been much chatter?
There was a problem with that, and I I'm not sure again, but I think there was alternative solutions coming out. I remember looking at it like a year ago where they're saying that there's just not enough of this metal in the world for all of these GPUs that we're producing, all of them. But I'm sure there's like alternatives and stuff now. But I still think they are doing it. Maybe they're just finding better ways of mining as well, more efficient ways of mining these kinds of things. So I don't know, but that's all that kind of news of that seems to have gone away a little bit, and I don't really understand why. I don't know why, but that like pure natural resources, it doesn't seem to. I don't hear about that in the news where I did it like a year ago.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, it would be interesting to truly understand whether or not it's because there is viable other solutions, or whether it's because there's like this inherent like faith in technology that we will innovate because we have to, and there's so much money and capability floating around that when this metal runs out, it's a bit like fossil fuels, isn't it? Like coal will run out, like that's a fact. And so we've innovated and created other methods of creating electricity. yeah, I mean, I just don't know about the battery.
They are even more so, right?
Yeah.
In one way. So
Yeah, interesting.
So he mentioned just a few other things here. So he mentioned that they're doubling down on autonomy. Artificial intelligence for robotics. He said will eventually bear immense fruit, adding to Tesla's future potential. And it's difficult for many to grasp just how big this is all going to be. And it is kind of mind blowing when you start thinking about what we were talking about in the last episode about the millions of Optimus that he's got planned.
Yeah.
He meant, onto Optimus. He mentioned that, it's going to be, doubling kind of every year or exponential ramp up. He said, before they get to like making like 100 million a year, Optimus is kind of the expectation. He said, and when we're at that kind of level, there'll be about $20,000 each.
Goodness me.
And but he said, they'll be priced on the market basically. So depending on how much people are willing to pay for them, especially in the ramp up period, that's the price they'll be. So in the early days, they're probably going to be really expensive, as people see them. But
that's an interesting take, isn't it? Because it's a bit like LLMs right now, isn't it? Like, I guess that's in theory how it should go, and then bam, in comes something else, an innovator from China, and completely undercuts the costs. So because we talk about Optimus as like one of the key competitors in the US, and I think they probably are, right? Arguably one of the most sophisticated and maybe at the front of the race, but China, the robotics.
Deepseek.
I mean Deepseek from in the LLM world, but in the robotics world,
okay.
China is producing some really, really cool stuff, and we're probably not even savvy to a lot of what's going on. But Tesla obviously got a very capable humanoid technology, and they've got all these ambitions, and maybe people will pay £1 million for a robot when it first come out. But if China suddenly start producing these things as well, or I say China, it could be anywhere in the world. It will be again interesting just to see how that all plays out.
Well, I got a really funny quote from Elon. Always comes out with funny quotes, but I've got a funny quote. And he mentioned, I got it written here. He talks about like them being like leaders, like in the physical world, kind of AI.
Mm-hmm.
Like this one thing in digital and LLMs, but the next thing is like in the physical world. He said there's no one else. And he said, there is no company in the world that is as good at real world AI as Tesla. I don't even know who's in second place. I need a very big telescope to see them. So like, and I think it's true. Like there just isn't no one that can compete with them right now.
Again, if you'd said that to me 7 days ago, I would have gone, he's probably right. There isn't even a close second. But I think that the Deepseek example is so prevalent.
We don't know when it's going to come. Just suddenly,
don't know when it's coming. Deepseek was only created like in the last 18 months. Really, they've just completely blown away what everyone thought. Like preconceptions about how much compute is required to train LLMs. So why is that not true for the robotics industry as well?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think Sam Altman is actually there's obviously a clip flying around this week of him. I think it was at a news conference like in the last couple of years, talking about how can anyone compete with OpenAI, and he's there boldly stating, you can't compete with us. We've just got so much data, we've got so much compute, we've got so much power basically that our competitors, it's bad luck really, but they're just never going to be able to compete with us. And here we are. And this is the great thing about the tech sector right now is it is just like
the assumption is the bar was so high to like the amount you need to invest was so high that it was hard for people to come in and be a player. It's changed. It's amazing. No one saw it coming. One last thing I mentioned on Tesla before we move on to the next story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really specifically other than like I think we're just saying about the size and scope of like all of this is coming that unless you're in the space, and we can't comprehend it really, even being in the space. But he said that I see a path as Tesla being the most valuable company in the world by far, like not even close. Many multiples of the next 5 companies combined. It's not an easy path, but it's an achievable path.
Wow.
So he was like saying multiple, like add Amazon and add Nvidia and add them all up and then multiply that by X number of times, and that's where I see Tesla in like the coming years. And I should probably mention he mentioned like this year it's going to be good. He said, but 2026, 27, 2028 is going to be mind blowing and epic. And he goes, the world's going to change, and like because they're just like their battery pack constrained for some stuff with the cars. But I think it's just that, you know, autonomous cars are coming, Optimus is coming, like all this stuff is coming, and like this year is going to be like all the foundations, and then 26, 27, 28, it's just going to be each year exponentially more incredible. So
it's just that's a bold claim. I mean, that is a bold claim.
yeah, and he said it's not going to be easy, and like who knows what comes out of China to like compete and like take some of that away. But when you see all of the service, like all of the product lines they have, and like we said before, they're all enormous.
Yeah, and very sophisticated.
We don't talk about them half. Some of the energy and energy thing, but he said like that, you know, Optimus is the thing that is going to be like basically you can value the business on Optimus. He said in the future, because that is where that's the biggest part he sees in the future.
The growth area.
Yeah, like,
and the place where possibly he does genuinely believe that Tesla is head and shoulders above the competition. Yeah, autonomous cars. There are a lot of autonomous car players. You can go through all the companies, and there's like maybe clearer competitors than in the robotics.
It's still not close, like to Tesla. That's the thing. Like I think Tesla's way of done it. They're literally doing it through sight and vision, whereas, you know, other companies using inferior tech really, and it was a competition about who should be at the right tech at one point. Even on the call, like one of the analysts mentioned LiDAR, I think it's called, which is one of the technologies that one of the other companies used, and they were I think it was LiDAR originally on some of the Teslas, but it just wasn't. He didn't see it as like being a long-term viable thing. But in terms of like just real-world vision and be able to learn through vision, like the only company that really does that and to that level, there's still no one really close on that. You can map out a city really well and have a car follow it, but if you just want it to learn on the fly and learn all the roads in the world, then yeah, Tesla's the only one that's got that tech to that level.
I think I've become more skeptical, believe it or not, in the last week that any claim in this sector right now is it will age very quickly potentially. You know, if there's someone that you believe would do something like that, you know, achieve that claim, it is probably Elon, right? Because of his track record. But I just don't think anyone can truly understand how quickly things can change in the tech sector right now.
Yeah, I think it's the first mover has like done a lot of the work.
Exactly. It's kind of
be first mover advantage, right? Now it's first mover disadvantage.
Yeah. It's a real difficulty, and you know, as all the technology gets like iterates, everyone just gets access to it and uses it, and it's like within you know days, weeks of each other. So I don't know, you know, the robotics and Tesla, the self-driving cars, like it is very different to the LLM stuff, but yeah, I wouldn't back any statement to be true.
Right, let's move on to story 2, Jack.
Yes, let's do it. So this is a really cool one, and I think both of our news items today focus on applications of the LLM technology that we've been discussing over the whole time. And the first thing I want to talk about was Bland AI. So Bland AI is a platform specializing in AI-driven phone call automation, and you know, it's kind of been coming. I don't think anyone's like shocked by this. Like it was a matter of when, not if, that this technology would sort of land in a sort of available way. But yeah, they're sort of proclaiming that they have this ultra realistic human voice technology that effectively can do phone calls, like, and it feels very, very real and personalized. And the beauty of it, obviously, it's accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, which is obviously like a huge advantage to any kind of non-automated system. So right now, this company Bland AI, they're targeting organizations. So I think, you know, a lot of us probably interact with phone operators through large companies. You're ringing sort of customer services, help desks for large corporations, and that's very much where this company is focusing their efforts right now, rather than small businesses necessarily and bespoke stuff.
Call centers are huge, right? And for some organizations, like thousands of people. So that's probably where, huge, massive part of the market and disruption can be.
There's a scarily long list of industries where call centers are used. It's, you know, almost all of them. And yeah, this company is probably one of many popping up in this space, but they're very much like very like quite sophisticated right now. And the kind of the impact they're going to have, the disruption that they're going to have is like scary.
Yeah,
it's scary. So what I might do is I might just flick up a like a video, I suppose, just to show you guys what kind of how this technology is looking.
Terrible name, by the way, though. Bland.
I know.
Who wants to be called
I thought
Bland?
that. It was an awful name. Right, let's see if we can get this to work. I'll put us on mute, guys.
Time is 4 hours. The next available agent won't help you.
Hi, I'm Isaiah. I'm the CEO of Bland.com. What's Bland? It's our AI that turns phone calls that suck into conversations that you'll actually enjoy. Yeah, an AI. Does it sound human? No. Better. We don't make people wait on hold or press 63 just to deal with a bad attitude.
Never. I handle millions of calls at once, 24/7, in any language or voice. So I can help renew season tickets for the Cavaliers
in the voice of a cowboy.
While Hertz uses me to help tu abuela reserva un auto de alquiler en español.
Have fun, Grandma. And not to toot your own horn, you're also a great listener.
Aw, well, I do literally remember every detail someone says. Companies design my responses and just connect the dots so I can navigate any conversation.
So no more yelling, representative, into the phone, right?
God, no. I just transfer to a human if you ask.
Tell them how we book more appointments for businesses.
They tell me when, and boom, I'll update a CRM.
And what about payments over the phone?
Way more secure than handing it to some offshore call center guy, and easy since I can be connected to any tool.
So no more bad attitudes, no more hold times, happier customers, and businesses save money?
Yep. Anything else, Isaiah?
Nah, I'll see you back at the office, Bland. Phone calls suck. So whether you're a customer or a business, it's time to hang up on the old system and call Bland yourself at Bland.com so you never have to listen to this again.
There we go. So that's just for those that can't see the screen, that was I guess a promotional video from Bland, kind of talking through the impact of their tech and what it means. And you know, I don't know about you, Mark, but there was a lot of relatable moments in there. I've been on the phone to many call centers before, and you just, even the first bit where you're like, you know, you have to listen to the 6 different options that they can send you down, and then you listen to all 6 and you think, oh God, I don't even know if it was either 2 or 3. I'm gonna have to listen to them again. And then you press it, and then, you know, then maybe there's several layers of this, and then eventually you're told, you know, all of our operators are busy, we'll be with you right now. I'm sure that 90% of the time you call, they're experiencing unexpectedly high demand. And then you sit there and you have to wait for some unknown amount of time. And then when you finally do get through to someone, the signal's maybe poor, or it's, you know, maybe it's the 2nd or 3rd time you've spoken to them. It is exceptionally painful. It is a really, you know, in some cases it's an exceptionally painful process. I did like that video because it did sort of, it was very relatable, right? And that's good marketing.
Yeah. I mean, never more clearly, like, you know, we talk about like AI enhancing jobs, you know, quite often, and making you able to do things more efficiently and quicker. We're not, you know, no one's going to lose a job here, but like you can totally see this is people losing jobs, like blatantly, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I was, my first thought was, because I used to work at Microsoft, that you know, Ireland is a big call center country, so a lot of US companies, they do it in Ireland because of tax breaks and stuff like that, I think. And the voice sounds good for taking support calls and things. But yeah, I didn't even think, he mentioned like offshore people there, like, you know, huge offshore companies, a lot of that happens offshore, doesn't it? So all of them are gone effectively. So yeah.
straight to the point.
It's scary. It's scary.
Yeah, it is. And I think what's also, you know, when you think about what makes it important to talk to a human right now, when you're, you know, calling somebody, you can think of many different industries and examples where, you know, the operator at the other end is doing something, you know, they're making appointments for you, or they're updating information in the system, or they're, you know, updating your contract, whatever it is, renewing your contract. Like you know, there's a reason that you need a human to do that, rather than right now, I suppose you could technically, program out like all the different possible things, but you need a human to then input that into the system. That's also where Bland is really, really focusing. It talks about them targeting organizations that a really key part of that flow is that whatever is being discussed is then being translated and put into the relevant systems. And that is now within our gift because of this technology. And Bland, as I say, has been focusing on making sure that those integrations work. And I you know, when I think about it as a company, I imagine right now it's quite bespoke. You know, there's literally thousands of CRMs across, you know, hundreds of different industries, and it's often difficult to make integrations work seamlessly. So I can imagine that they've got a massive team of individuals making those integrations happen. But once they're plumbed in, that's it. You know, your entire call team, or a massive proportion of them, can go.
So do you know how it works? Is it a case that me or you could hire pay for Bland, or is it like, are they purely working with corporates to get this installed?
It's a good question. I've had a look at the website, and I'd encourage you to go and have a look. I think you can literally put in your phone number and you can speak to one of their AIs, probably to chat all this through. They are priding themselves on enterprise level capability, and I think it's more that is what they're saying. It's, you know, not only can we target individuals or small business, I'm sure that's within their gift, like why wouldn't it be, but actually for corporations where it's a lot more complicated, they are offering a number of different add-ons which allow you to map out different customer journeys, that allow you to I don't know exactly how, but allow you to integrate with CRMs. And so, you know, I'm guessing it's corporations that they're interested in supporting. But I can't, you know, if we had a small I don't know, a very small company that just had one person that handled the phones, I don't see why there's any reason why this technology wouldn't be suitable for them.
Super interested to see how they go about training their kind of models as well, and what that involves.
Yes, so there's a couple of interesting things in there. So not specifically about training, but just around how Bland operates. So firstly, they all of their technology is like owned. They manage all their own infrastructure, so they're not relying on any of these sort of third-party corporations for their models. And so they're boasting like seriously impressive uptimes, like 99.99% uptime, and like security, they're boasting like significant security compliance across the board. You know, they're adhering to a number of qualifications and I can't remember what the right word is, but you know, security things that are needed to give people peace of mind. You know, it's scalable. You can have one, you can have 100, you can have as many as you like. You can tone it down for the quiet periods, tone it up for it. So it's literally like there is no reason to never like not be connected to an operator immediately, effectively, with this kind of technology. Their pricing model, I think they effectively charge you per minute per call.
Okay.
So that's currently how it works. I don't know how, like, you know, if you've got to do a lot of bespoking for integrating, or a lot of training, or there's a really, really complicated sort of customer flow through their system. I don't know how that works, but yeah, it's kind of like a pay-as-you-go type scheme, I think, once it's all set up. But yeah, it's a really, really impressive company. It's got a lot of attention. I think they've just recently secured $65 million worth of funding. So it's not like you know, again, it's not insignificant in terms of the waves it's making. Like, people clearly see how impactful this is going to be. And yeah, I mean, I've jotted down a number of industries that came to mind that are going to be disrupted. And as I say, it's a long list. Yeah. So I think it's quite scary for the impact it's going to be having for people.
Yeah. And yeah, some cases it's going to be great. Like if you are a small business and you can save that time that you spend ultimately on the phone and doing stuff, and you can actually do that have more productive work, then it's great. But yeah, it's all happening, and like the reality is people are losing their jobs, and that's the truth. I mean, I think, if I'm honest, the faster everyone loses their jobs, the better, like literally across the planet, because that means that AI is doing a good enough job, probably earning enough money for us to be able to sit on the beach and do whatever we want, right? So I mean, if it's strung out, I mean, it will be strung out. It'll happen like in phases, right? But yeah, it's going to be painful.
Yeah, but the strung out version of the world is I don't know if that's worse or better for like economies to deal with. You know, if it's each small chunk of people, over time, versus like the opposite end of the scale is big bang, everyone loses their job all at once. It's almost like you can see that world being better because the solution is global, almost like it has to apply to everyone. Whereas if you're one of the unlucky few that goes first, I imagine it's going to be a lot tougher for those individuals. And as more and more, and the job market becomes more and more constricted, obviously there are job opportunities opening up as a result of AI, but probably the net is still a loss, significant loss. If you're, there just will be people that get unlucky with timing and not being able to find another opportunity. And maybe you're right, maybe it is worse that way around.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think it's going to be hard. It's going to be painful, and more because the governments aren't ready for it. Maybe understandably. I mean, they could have been more ready for it, probably. But this has been a revolution, right? This is fast. And if they, the governments, ultimately they're not going to be ready. And ultimately there's not going to be enough money to go around to all the people that don't have jobs. So, the way I'm thinking about it is, well, the faster the AI gets there to making a vibrant economy, which allows the government to then just redistribute that wealth through taxes and that aspect still, but taxing businesses because of their AI is making money, not the humans, and then they got and then hopefully everyone benefits from that. I mean, that's just idealistic, maybe, that the government's going to go and share its money with everybody, but
it's a bit scary. It is a bit scary, but I think this bland AI is one of probably many companies just in this space that will pop up, and it's the applications, and we've seen it. Again, the sort of the roadmap of AI that we've been seeing, like at every release of this new tech, it's we often talk about the use cases and what impact is that going to have, and we hypothesize and we say, maybe this is going to happen, or it probably means that this is going to happen. Like for me, bland AI is one of the what was a hypothesis probably a few months ago, like you can imagine you just talk to an AI instead of a human, like that for a while has been talked about, and here it is, here it really is commercially available, people are using it, and it probably it does work. Probably isn't perfect, there's probably room for improvement, of course, and there's some really interesting demo videos as well on the web that you can see people talking to these systems, and it is really impressive, of course, but it's not perfect. You can tell you're talking to you can't tell, I know he says you can't, but you can tell you're talking to an AI, particularly because there's like pauses while it thinks about what to say and things like that. But this is an application, like a real application. Anyway, so move on.
Let's do the next segment. So this segment I've called LLM news, just because it's a whole load of LLM news this week. So last week we had Deepseek. This week we had Qwen 2.5 from Alibaba. So
from Alibaba.
So the company that you can buy direct from factories, the products in China. They're a huge company on that basis. So they've got a lot of money, and they've invested themselves in building AI LLM. Again, like they position themselves as up with DeepSeek, up with ChatGPT, that kind of level. They describe themselves a little bit similar to like what we were saying about DeepSeek when we're speaking this week, a large scale mixture of experts. So it's again trained much more cheaply, and the way they're smart in the way that they you only need to work with a certain part of the LLM rather than the whole thing, which is kind of saving on compute costs. So you can, when you ask a question, you get like that expert or team of experts deployed rather than having to use the whole model.
So we chatted about this briefly before, and I'm not sure we've captured it. So in terms of playing that back, and I imagine there's a very, very nice technical explanation that somebody could give, but what are we talking about? How does that approach compare to like what we see with ChatGPT?
So I think it's just the purely like the way that it executes. Again, I don't really know the full details, but I think it's able to like distinguish kind of what your question is, and then just it's almost segmented area of the LLM that it'll kind of go and answer. So rather than being imagine it like as a human.
Mhm.
The way I think about it is like, you're one human with a knowledge of everything.
Mhm.
This is like, and we've talked already a little bit about like, it's better when you're trained at the moment, at least having a swarm of AIs that are like trained on each different thing.
Mhm.
Specifically, it's kind of that scenario, I think. So almost where ChatGPT and Claude might be, you'd talk to one thing that captures all, like the way they've broken it down to component parts, and how that manifests itself into a kind of cheaper model. I don't know the full details, but that's the way they've
cool.
described it in a similar way to Deepseek.
It certainly makes sense from a cost perspective, thinking about it in that way. You've got this one mega super mind that you're interacting with every time, and it doesn't matter whether you're saying, how long does it take to cook rice, or tell me about philosophy, or whatever it is. Like, it's one thing, and it's one sausage factory that just spits out the answer, versus like, how long does it take to cook rice? Right, that's the food module. You might bring in the food module, and it's just like a much quicker, smaller.
Yeah.
And maybe if there's any real technical experts listening, thinking, "Oh my,"
put it in the comments.
Gosh, yeah, what are they on about?
I'd love to know. The technical. I probably will find that, but I mean, it'd be good to know the full details. But in terms of, it's free as well at the moment.
That's just nuts.
Like
isn't it?
Deepseek.
Yeah.
I guess the difference between Deepseek and Qwen is that it's not open source; it's closed source.
Okay, interesting.
And therefore, there is some concerns about what's happening with your data. Like, if you have open source code, you can see it, but like, are you shipping all your knowledge or information to China effectively? And is that a problem in terms of security, especially when the CPP or the government effectively China that are funding these projects, including Deepseek and Qwen.
Yeah, it's interesting. What's their motives? Like, what are they trying to do? Is it just about being American and becoming the world leader in the space, or?
Well, it's natural for us to be suspicious, I guess. But I mean, is it any worse than what the US would do? I don't know, or the Western world would do. I think it's just, who knows. Like,
well, we've seen a number of lawsuits coming through of non-Chinese companies using your data.
Well, talking about lawsuits, that's another part of the LLM news. So I mean, they're not really lawsuits, but I don't know what ChatGPT do, but they've launched an investigation into Deepseek, and I imagine probably
too. I've heard this. Yeah,
about returning ChatGPT-4 results, but also just like, it's almost like, but we spent billions on this, and like, you've now you've just taken it and like. And that's the truth. Like, and like, I think it's just a bit bitter, isn't it? Like,
what's the problem?
Well, I don't know what they can do about it. It was publicly available, and I think they've now gone and done the research and realised that there were mass harvestings of data. But that's just the way that Deepseek was trained, was just querying ChatGPT models over and over and over and over and over again, and that was how it trained itself and building it up. And they've like now looked back and gone, oh yeah, like there was someone using a hell of a lot of like data there.
It's interesting because the whole mission, it's called OpenAI, right? Their whole mission was to make it accessible.
Once upon a time, yeah, it was.
And now here they are supposedly trying to say, target this company that have used it. It's interesting, isn't it?
That's Elon's beef, isn't it? Like, it was OpenAI because it was supposed to be open and it's not open. Yeah, and so. Yeah, so I guess just some notes on Qwen 2. So it's got Qwen 2 Max as well, which then lets you flip. Well, basically, you can generate text, images, and video like all in one interface as well.
Yeah, that's very cool.
And it also has like code editing and preview functionality, a bit like Canvas. So you can go and edit code.
When did they got that idea?
Yeah, they call it artifacts. And also like previewing like what the code looks like when it's running. So that kind of like works as well. So it's up there. It's on a level, but like I think it does some things really well, but it's not so good in others. So, but it is fully featured, and it does video and images. Deepseek also brought out Janus Pro 7B this week, which we tried. Isn't like groundbreaking yet. But Deepseek is considered the best for humanized content. So if you look at Qwen, that's just like not very good at that. Although it does give quite good concise kind of responses to queries, especially well, yeah. I mean, I think so. It's got good coding features which Deepseek doesn't have, but its answers aren't anywhere near as good as Deepseek.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So,
has it been? Have you seen a spread of like the actual benchmarks?
So once again, like I think we said this last week, it achieves great results on all of the benchmarks again, but you would expect it to. But does that mean once you're using it in the real world for real world applications, does that really mean that it's going to do what you want it to do? So I think it's up there and competing again.
Another one to turn to when my code doesn't compile.
It's just the cheapness of it, now, isn't it? And then there's Kimi as well, from a company called Moonshot. So Kimi had a chatbot like last year, which they released, which was did really well. But they have like a context window that's kind of 5 times that of like the OpenAI models.
Really?
So it's like huge.
In theory, again, it'd be interesting how that actually comes through. Yeah.
Well, that's really good for like bringing lots of technical data and information together, and also really good at like mathematical tasks because of that larger context window.
Yeah.
What
did you say it was called? Kimi.
KIMI by a company called Moonshot.
Moonshot. I've never even heard of them.
No, I mean they got funding at the start of last year to the tune of something like 3 billion, I want to say, something like that, and then they just got at the end of last year another 300 million. In funding. So, and yeah, they're producing LLMs. I mean, we mentioned a little bit last week about our LLM is going to be focusing on specific things, trying to be a generalist for all. Well, they definitely are focusing more on the mathematical tasks, technical solving of problems.
Yeah.
I mean, or at least that's where they seem to be excelling. And because of the way that they do their learning, I think there's lots of reinforcement learning they do, which is more than like the other models kind of doing at the moment. So
but it's interesting, isn't it? It's again like the players that are coming through. I mean, how many people had heard of Deepseek? I know Deepseek have got a really like a history of models, but Deepseek kind of was an unknown player until last week. I've forgotten already. Moonshot, Kimi. Never, Alibaba. You never even would have considered them as an AI player. Like, that's just 3 more in a week.
3 Chinese ones that are competing at the highest level.
And how many other ones are currently in progress? How many other ones are going to be using R1 and Kimi to train their own models?
Exactly,
because they're free,
and it's really cheap to train yourself, train the models.
Like, it's just mind blowing. Like, it really is. I mean, if you could, if you had all knowing power and you could map out and see how many people right now are trying to compete in this race. I know we talk about it as a race. There's maybe 6 or 7 players that you think about, like they're in the TV shot, but how many hundreds, thousands of others are there in the background, and any one of them could just propel forward, because it feels like there's like a cheat code to just use the. I mean,
what does that mean for like LLMs going forward? Because if you can effectively copy and paste, which was almost what we were talking about, like an LLM, and just take for a much cheaper budget, be able to achieve similar or better results. What incentive is there for a company to spend the billions
just
training the model? Well, someone's got to do that, right? But then what incentive is there for anyone to do that when effectively 3 months later someone can actually have direct competition at a fraction? I mean, I think so Deepseek claims to be like a magnitude level, like I think it's something like 500 million that you open up. I'm going to butcher these numbers, but just to say 500 million spent to train a model by OpenAI, and then 5 million for Deepseek.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, so, I mean, it is like it's a huge difference.
Yeah.
But a lot of the US companies, and maybe again, this is who knows, but they're like very, very skeptical about those numbers. Like, even if they've done it the way that they've done it, that actually could be achievable. But again, they're using old NVIDIA tech to be able to get these results. But what is it? Yeah, what does that mean going forward? Like, what value is there in an LLM if you can effectively copy it?
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because it is, as you say, there's no suddenly the benefit of being first means nothing. I mean, look at how quickly people dropped ChatGPT and downloaded Deepseek. It's the most downloaded app in America over ChatGPT. I mean, that's crazy stat. So, and even now, when you think about the construct of these big tech companies, the ones that have done it first, they've done it because they've had tons of funding, tons and tons. But even the Deepseek coming out like shocked the stock market, the tech industry did, like, rippled. So if we get a couple more of those in the next few weeks, like, I mean, who are we to say anything about the financial markets? But you can see a world where investors suddenly get really, really afraid, because why have we placed so much value in these big tech companies in the US when they do it in a garage? What does it mean?
I mean, we were even talking last week, is there space for the number that we knew of players?
Yeah.
Is there space for these, like, extra more? Like, someone's got to win at some point, but what's going to be the differentiator?
What does it mean to win? When does it stop?
Yeah.
Gosh,
so
big talk.
OpenAI is moving to, like, free for all, in a way, because of all of this new tech, and some people want it that way, and that's why they wanted open tech. So maybe, these open source models that just, I don't know where it ends. I mean, we talked about as well physical AI, that just being a little bit harder to copy. This is in the digital space. LLMs turn out to be not that hard to copy. But what is that in a physical world? Things are a lot harder to copy. Like, we were talking about humanoid robots and things like that. How are you gonna?
It's really interesting. Yeah, I just can't. Again, like, your mind goes off into the world of sci-fi, doesn't it? And what you've seen before, and you can imagine where there's a very clear separation between the physical, like, capability of the robotics, and that is really, like, obviously a really important thing. Like the dexterity of the robots, and can they do this task or that task or whatever. And then there's the brain bit. And if you can plug and play the brain, then really the question becomes, well, who's going to produce the most, like, dexterous humanoids? Or even, again, like, maybe we think about it the wrong way, that there's a one size fits all humanoids, and actually what we're going to see is, like, specialized robots for very different tasks.
For sure. Yeah.
We've seen that, like, already there's very different shapes and styles of robots, but I just can't even, like, right now, if you made me bet on how is it all going to play out, like, I would really struggle.
No one can. I don't think that anyone knows. Even the companies building AI, they don't know where it's going to, what they aimed.
What I would say is that it's very exciting. Like, it's really, really cool. Like, it's very fun. Like, tomorrow they could just be this, like, oh, there's a new company popped up and it's created the world's most impressive LLM, and then next week there'll be another one, maybe. And OpenAI will come in again.
Well, maybe LLMs are not so attractive anymore.
Maybe not.
It's an LLM company.
Yeah. It'd be interesting, because O3 is obviously coming soon. O3 Mini is supposedly rumored today. For the US, and I don't think we're going to get access, but it'd be really interesting to see how that, again, actually performs in real life. And O3 again will come soon after that. But yeah,
cool. Should we move on to our last of the main stories?
Yes, let's do it. So as I say, again, I was most interested this week in the news around, like, applications of technology. So just going to talk a little bit about a company called, and again, pronunciation might not be right here, but Natura Omana, or Natura Omana, something like that. So what is it? So it's a Swiss tech company. So interesting. I've not heard much coming out of Switzerland, but Swiss tech company focusing on enhancing human-machine interactions through AI. That's how they're sort of branding it, human machines through AI. But what is it really? Well, they've currently sort of very recently released two products. So one is kind of the software bit, and the other is kind of the hardware bit, a little bit like the robotic stuff. So the software bit is called Nature OS, and Nature OS is basically the platform where you can build very, very bespoke, very, very targeted, personal AIs. So what we're talking about here is, think about all the kind of experts in your own life. You have, I mean, we don't all have these, but in theory, in a perfect world, you'd have a PT, you'd have a nutritionist, you'd have like a life coach, you'd have a therapist, you'd have a, whatever music instrument coach, you'd have all these things. And on this Nature OS platform, you can basically create those very, very, very targeted and specific AIs. And I'm sure there's a lot of out the box ones that you can just use. And I think there's the ability to train them, or at least there's the ambition to. But the beauty of them is that they're personalized to you. So you have your own, I'm assuming, Nature OS account. You have these AIs accessible to you, and it's memories. Each one has its own memories, are very, very bespoke to you. So that's all, you have the therapist, the only client is you. Do you know what I mean? And the PT, the only client is you. And so Nature OS is the platform where these sort of AIs are built. And then the hardware side is called human pods. Now, human pods basically are just earphones. So a little bit like AirPods, put them in your ears, but they're made to be compatible with this Nature OS software. And there's a real sort of emphasis about these human pods being like super ergonomically designed, like you know, battery life is going to last all day. And the idea is that you would literally have them in all day, and you would like barely know that they were there, probably waterproof. There's stories of people walking in the shower with them because they didn't like forgot they had them in, that kind of thing. So
hang on, they're in the wild already.
Yeah, they are. So they are. I mean, they've, I guess, prototyping them and things like that. But we have had a really cool. So the thing that caught my eye was there's sort of a big release of this recently from this company, Natura Omana, and though they're not like completely there yet, they're like obviously close enough that they want to release it. And so as of today, can't buy them, but you can sign up for a waiting list, and who knows how soon it'll come out. But I did want to show a clip just to give you guys an idea of like exactly how they work. There's like a million different applications you can think of, but this is just one example.
Hey Jay, just a heads up, Anna's birthday is in 3 days.
Oh, right. We should definitely get this something.
How about some hiking boots? She could use them for your trip.
Great idea. How much are we talking?
Just sent you the top 3 options. They're all in the $75 to $120 range, so pretty solid deals.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, there you go. That was a funny little example. I do think that actually the Natura Omana have said that these aren't real. So these are like effectively simulated.
Well, the video is
the video is real. Yeah, the video's right. The actual, yes, that's a human, I think, actor. But the actual conversation is simulated. I think it was one of the founders of the company did a presentation this week where he did do a live demo, and it was really, really impressive. I think the example that we've just seen there is I think it's a feature they call like proactive calling. Yeah. So you're not reaching out to it is reaching out to you, and just sort of at whatever point makes sense in your day or your life or whatever, they're just sort of saying, oh, for whatever, you've got this birthday party, I know you haven't bought a birthday present, and it's pulling together lots of bits of information about this person to suggest a birthday present. Now there's loads and loads of different like use cases that they've portrayed. So yes, what are your thoughts so far, Mark?
I thought that advert was terrible acting. The way just he appeared on the video and just stopped to like have a chat. Like, well, how do you like walk? Question check. Yeah, the video. I thought it was pretty bad. And I don't like wholly like the example. Like,
no, it's a bad example.
Like,
really.
I mean, I could so easily just I'm at my desk in my day. Could be, it's like I get a calendar notification. Oh, it's 3 days to someone's birthday. Oh, I'll just quickly go to ChatGPT. Yeah, and like, well. Yeah, but the fact that it knows, I guess, that you're coming up on the hiking trip is really interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm just taking the mickey out of the video, really, and like it's sort of almost a too basic example for almost to see the value.
Yes,
but like we've spoken about this many times before. I don't know if we have on this podcast, but like we talk about a future where an AI knows everything about you, and therefore it can make recommendations on your nutrition, your diet, everything. And you want to mention all of those different types of agents effectively that are working on your behalf. I can totally see like how that would be valuable. I mean, I think some people it would be like the worst nightmare.
Oh yeah, gosh, it's intrusive, isn't it? It's there the whole time listening to.
Like instead of picking up your phone, it's just it's just like
just leave me alone.
yeah. But there's got to be a time when these things become like more naturally fitted into your life. Like it hasn't happened with phones. They're not conducive to that. People still get like offended because you're having to like turn your attention away, I guess. And I think the thing I find hard with phones is that almost the assumption is you're not doing anything valuable on phones. Like, so I know that especially like my wife and that, she finds it. She in the past at least, she found it hard if I was on my phone. It's like, oh, you're on the phone, I'm just looking at the top of your head type scenario. It's like, but the devices have become so good that I'm genuinely doing some work right on them and actually doing. I'm not just scrolling like TikTok or whatever. I'm actually doing. And then it's like to get like broken out of that and then interrupted is like really hard as well, because you're then suddenly like, because they're not really valuing what you're doing, it's just on your phone. So it doesn't work for anyone. It doesn't work for the person on the phone. It doesn't work for the person who's with you while you're on your phone. Arguably, if you're with, I wouldn't sit there at a meal with my wife and then be on the phone. I'd be chatting to her, but like, do you know what I mean? Like, generally, if I'm just sitting in the room on my phone, the assumption is it's not important or whatever. And so I don't think like, phones don't quite fit in your life yet. I think even these AirPods things, like maybe like as an interim, the only time it's really going to work. But see, again, it's even worse. Like Neuralink, right? We talked about that before. It's implants in your brain, and it's just
that feels like the next step, doesn't it? With these things,
well, it is. It's like the next thing. But
it's what you're talking about. I do want to flash up a graphic from their website because I think this is really, really interesting. So this is about Natura Omana's mission, and basically what they want to say. So I'll just read the quote. It says there, so we want to rediscover life beyond screens by using the most human way to communicate, our voice. We will minimize screen time. And the graph that we're looking at is it's effectively a timeline over sort of 50 years from the 1980s when computers first came out all the way through to 2030 in the future. And the I don't know if there's a key on here, but there is. So positive utility is like this, well, let's just go to what it's saying. Over recent years, particularly since the smartphone was introduced and social media was introduced, the amount of time that people are spending on their phones being distracted, and they've used the word addiction because there is this kind of concept right now of people being addicted to their smartphones and addicted to like short form content and things like that. This company, and I actually really like this, their mission is to basically, like, effectively what they're saying is this is actually really unnatural. This is really not what humans were meant to do. We're kind of becoming this version of ourselves, which is like not right. And what they're saying is we want to use technology, ironically, to get us back to where we should be. And they talk a lot, when you look through their stuff, they talk a lot about this mission of reducing screen time. And so I think, even though I agree that example was pretty naff, it is a good example where suddenly an interaction where you would have to go on your phone to see, oh yeah, birthday coming soon. You would have to then go to your search engine, then you'd have to scroll, and then you'd have to do research, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Suddenly an hour of screen time is being cut down to, cool, these are my 3 shortlisted items, bam, pick that one. And again, like the amount of use cases and the amount of different scenarios where this technology or this kind of technology can have a really positive impact, particularly as it improves in like sophistication, is really, really like, well, you just can't fathom all of the different things that it can do. And they talk about their mission being from sort of today into the future being, let's actually start to stamp back down on that amount of time that people are spending. There's another quote on here, I think maybe it was somewhere else, but Gen Z spends something like 7.5 hours on their phone a day, or 7.5 hours in front of a screen a day. And that's a mental thing. And it is, like, when you think about it, it is truly unnatural. That's not what humans were designed to do. I mean, we'll go off crazy into what we're designed to do, all this kind of crazy stuff. But looking at a screen all day, particularly scrolling through short form content, is not a good thing. Like, it's not healthy for anyone. And yeah, I just quite like that. That's their ambition. Like, that's the sort of the underlying driver for this company.
That's really interesting. Yeah, and this wasn't scripted, so it's interesting that
that's exactly where you went. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we know the details of our own stories. We don't know each other on purpose. So this thing, hopefully we ask questions. But yeah, I think that's really interesting. If that's where it's got to go eventually. That it fits within. It's not intrusive. It fits within your day. You can just be a human. So yeah, I like that as a mission. We're going to read some more now on that and like how they plan to achieve that. But if almost part, if you on the surface, it almost feels like it could be even worse than the phone. Like, you've got to pick up your phone to be intrusive. If it's just suddenly coming into your ears, I'm just walking down the road thinking about something. Oh, someone's birthday in 3 days. Oh.
What I find interesting is, and it'd be interesting to talk about it, is their mission is to reduce screen time. It's not natural. It's use your voice. It's more natural. All this kind of stuff. But you can kind of imagine a world where this technology is widely adopted. Everyone's walking around with their like 50 AI, army of 50 AI people that are specific to them, and all they're doing is interacting with them. And actually, all you're doing is creating this sort of world around you that you're kind of trapped in, like this virtual world where you're just talking to your AI bots or whatever you want to call them. And what does that really mean for humanity and like social interactions and being in the moment and being present and all this stuff? And they talk about, you should use this technology so you can get back into nature and things like that, which again, like, love that as a mission statement. But is the actual technology, is the direction of travel as technology just kind of going to be its own kryptonite? And what I find really, really interesting is particularly post-COVID in the UK, where, and in many countries where lockdowns were sort of enforced for a long time, the ability to socialize, or people's social batteries and everything around that, they changed. Like, it really has had a massive impact. I think it's taken people a long time to recover, if they even have. And some people of a certain age where that sort of social development is really important, whilst they were trapped inside not socializing, like, it has had a real impact. And you can kind of see this as like a very, and maybe it isn't fair to make comparisons between these two scenarios, but you can kind of see some similarities where people are kind of sort of trapped in their own thing. You only ever interact with AIs, and so interacting with a human where you're a real person, you've got emotions, there's a physical thing, there's all these sort of like signals and ways that we're communicating with each other other than just voice, which is what the AIs are. Like, what impact does that really have on our ability to be social, to be in the moment, to be present? Like, it's scary.
Yeah.
I don't know how it plays out, but it will be interesting to see it. Like, I would like to think this is where, again, you kind of one of these tipping points. Like, the technology can be real good, and it can also do real bad, and it's very, very difficult to know or predict, or protect against these things. I think, how people will end up interacting with them, the impacts it has on things around them. So yeah,
I mean, cool tech for sure.
It is cool tech. Yeah. One other small thing that I did want to talk about, and I think it kind of applies to the bland AI that we talked about before, and really all AI again, but particularly in this use case where you've got these personal experts in your ears, what is the implication of a human acting on advice or acting on the output of a conversation with one of these AIs, which ultimately leads to some kind of bad outcome? Even if, like, statistically it was the right thing to advise, or according to the facts it was the right thing to advise, or even if it wasn't, even if actually, no, generally it does just give bad advice, or results in an action which is like suboptimal, where's the liability? Like, who does that sit with? What does that mean?
Well, I guess you have to, I guess that liability has to be written in somewhere, doesn't it? Like, it's your responsibility ultimately. I'm just thinking about last week we spoke about Tesla cars and full self-driving and autopilot, where it saves more lives than it doesn't, but the people that died through using autopilot probably would be alive. So, because they wouldn't have been using autopilot. But ultimately, overall, we save more lives. We just don't know the ones we saved. We just know there's less accidents and less fatalities. Like, it's that kind of thing. And the people definitely try to sue Tesla for people dying through using of their technology. But I guess there's, through having like a Tesla, you're expected to still put your hands on the wheel. They do stuff in the tech to make sure you try and do that. But ultimately, it's your responsibility, is what is in the documentation. It's still your responsibility. So it's hard.
It is hard, and I do think it is. It's with the Tesla stuff. It's like, maybe it's a little bit different. Still a really big problem, like as we discussed previously. But with this, it's like, you can imagine a world where people are forming like really like deep relationships almost with these AIs. Like, it knows everything about you. It's there. It's constantly, it's got the personality exactly how you want it. You become reliant on it, and effectively you build trust. And so it'd be very, very difficult to, I think it effectively clouds your judgment. It's the same reason why people are the way they are, because, oh, well, that's what my parents believed in, or that's what my friends believe in, or whatever it is, or like that's the people you turn to for advice, the people you trust. And if this becomes a source of trust for you, even if they, some waiver, or, you inherently accept that there's risk and that you shouldn't always listen to the advice that comes out, like, I don't know if that's like enough.
Yeah, I don't know. There's an argument, is that any worse than it is already, with like mainstream media portraying their version of the news? The LLMs are all trained on English language and mostly Western world ideals and things. So they're already telling you, you ask it a question and it's telling you an answer of the way you should think. But it's a very Western opinion on how the world should be and how you should live your life and those kind of things. And it's just the extension of that, really, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
But I guess a question for you, like nothing really, like obviously, like we're always amazed by this new stuff that comes out. Nothing surprises me now. Like I feel like everything's possible. You tell me like there's gonna be stuff in your ears, it's gonna listen to you every day, and then it's gonna talk to you, like, and understand you. Like maybe because we understand a little bit of the tech behind it, and it's like basically it's just like a trained language model that understands aspects of your life, and then will perform agentic actions on that. Like it doesn't seem like it seems like we could probably do something along those lines if we maybe not to the same scale without the same funding, but with even the technology that we have access to, like we could build something which does something like that, and it's not too hard to fathom. It's not like I can't believe that exists or that's going to happen. Like everything that comes out is like, wow, it's amazing, but I can see a road to it.
It's true. I mean, I think it kind of comes through in sort of these companies. These guys were set up in like 2023 or something. Like they've again not been around for long, and bam, they've already got this technology. And you look at the history of some of these companies. Again with Bland AI, like the amount of progress they've made in such a short space of time is so impressive. But like it just goes to show that it's possible. And like what we're talking about here, I think these guys are a little bit further behind in that it's not like commercially available just yet, but it's very close. Bland AI is, and it's being used already, in a number of companies. A lot of that time is about, polishing the product and making sure it all is succinct and, et cetera, so people will actually buy it. But the actual underlying tech of, voice agents, or in this case, building a number of bespoke personal agents, like, as you say, that as an actual tech, like from a technology perspective, just isn't that. It's just, so it feels silly to say, but it's just not that impressive anymore. It's not like, oh, how have they done that? It's like, oh yeah, I kind of know how they've done that in my head, roughly. Like, not to belittle it at all, because obviously it is an insane achievement. And if we could do it like that, obviously we would. But like, it's still, it's just like suddenly all these things feel within reach.
I think the next thing probably is like, in the digital world, at least AGI and then ASI. Once you get something that's like, well, ASI really, super intelligence. Once it starts thinking for itself and in solving cancer and stuff like that, that's probably a wow moment.
That will be a wow
which
moment.
AI is kind of doing a bit to some level now. But if it starts to come up with its own inventions to solve problems, I think that probably will be the next wow moment. But also then there's the physical world.
The physical world stuff will be wow. Yeah.
That's like when's the ChatGPT moment for the physical world, and maybe Optimus is that ultimately as well.
And maybe it is already there. Like if an Optimus walked into the room right now and started doing stuff, we would be like, wow. It's just that because of the physical constraints, it is going to be a more sort of
because like full self-driving, if we experience that, I'm sure wow would be like really impressed. But again, it's like, okay,
maybe we've become snobby.
Well, but if we've done that, if you go back like 10, 20 years, like, and done that, I suddenly like this full self-driving and like you give it to my mum or whatever, she'd be like wow, it would be massive, right? Things are happening fast, but like it's almost the expectation is almost that it's going to be fast.
Is true, and we talked about it before, but it manifests in the day to day when you're talking to an LLM, and it's like taken 4 seconds to generate a response rather than 2, and you're like, what the heck? Why is it so slow?
Yeah, and angry about having to type on a keyboard because it feels so old-fashioned. But yeah, instead of talking to it. Right, should we wrap up with our quick fire news stories? You go first. You've got a few more.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously didn't have a dedicated section today for Deepseek, but because we talked about it last week quite a lot. But do want to just like mention it as in terms of the impact it's had worldwide. Like, it feels like it was released last week. We caught onto the release. Wow, this is really impressive. Early responses are like, crikey, this is good. And then it was like it went mainstream, and the markets sort of caught on, and everyone had a chance to realize, like, what does this mean? And that's why this week we've seen a huge impact, like globally, in terms of the tech market and valuation of these big tech companies. So that was a really big moment this week. And thought probably a lot of people did gulp when they saw their share prices go down. So yeah, really big. I did also want to sort of call out that the SAP CEO, and I think others as well with big companies, have come forward and sort of almost praised this and said, actually, I know this is like, the markets are responding badly, but this is a really good thing for certainly enterprise level organizations. And again, like it applies to all organizations. Like, suddenly we've now got access to a really affordable, really capable technology. You can run this on hardware. It's really cheap. And it's really good. Someone said, like, you can buy, Deepseek, the Deepseek R1 model. You can buy the hardware required and run it for like $5,000 a year, which is the same price as a secondhand Clio or whatever. And it's like it's technically more capable than most humans. Like, you just bought one for $5,000 and you can run it yourself locally. No, you don't need anything. You could just plug it into a solar panel and it's there. Like, even if the internet goes down, the world goes bust, like, you've got this little superhuman. And like, that's insane. Like, it is actually insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the SAP CEO is one of the people of sort of importance that's come forward to acknowledge that. Other things, read an interesting article this week about a company. I think there are a number of companies doing it. The one I read about is called Book by Anyone, but effectively you can go and you can provide a little bit of information about yourself. I think the use case for this one is like autobiographies. We provide a little bit of information about your life, who you are, talk some snippets, whatever, send it off. They'll generate like an entire book, like a 250-page book. They'll print it for you and send it to you for 25 quid or something. And it's really like, people are responding, and it's really impressive. And even authors are reading this and trying it just to see what it's like. And they're like, this like sounds just like me. And again, like, that's not that impressive. Like, obviously we've seen that, but I think again, it's kind of going a bit more mainstream. And I just thought it was quite fun, like quite a fun little gift. I think the example I saw was someone had bought it for a gift, and they were like, wow, this is really cool. And then finally, Gary Kemp has used AI to help generate some of the scenes in his new music video, to which the sort of that industry, the music industry, is responding quite negatively to, sort of saying, AI is a real risk for us, and you're embracing it and using it to generate your music video. To which Gary Kemp has responded, well, actually, it's really difficult to get funding, and if I didn't use the AI, then I just wouldn't have a video, or the video I do have would be rubbish. It's a no-brainer to use it. Saying, I would never use it for like music or lyrics, but the rest of the industry saying this is like, you either adopt it or you don't, and Gary's leaning in. So yeah, interesting movements in the music industry.
Excellent. So just a couple of short ditties from me. So like, China's investing more billions into artificial intelligence. So $8.2 billion, like an AI investment fund. And that's ultimately down to the fact that, with the fresh administration in the US, they're imposing like more chip export restrictions. So again, like, more chips are not going to get shipped to China. So they're investing a whole lot of money to develop their own AI infrastructure and things, and not rely on the West to like help, with that kind of stuff. So kind of makes sense. So the AI arms race is really hotting up. And was it Mark Andreessen who mentioned, I think that was this week as well, that this is the Deepseek is the US Sputnik moment. So which is like, now that they thought they were leading and no one else was going to touch them, now like the war for AI is on effectively. So it's quite an exciting time to live in. It's like the space race. It's like
really is, yeah.
Time we'll look back on as we get older and go, well, I lived that time. So, and I think Apple continuing to secure themselves as not runners in the AI world. Obviously they're way behind, as we spoke about last week. The Apple Intelligence is a bit embarrassing, really, compared to like what else is out there. And they got suspended again this week for their AI generated news summarization feature in the iOS 18.3. Because basically it was just producing a whole lot of alerts, and it faced lots of criticisms for errors, basically. And even in one example, it gave a false report about a suspect in a murder case. So
awful, isn't it?
yeah, so I think it's been suspended again, and then obviously they want to re-release that again, but they're going to do some more work on it before. But I don't know what else Apple are planning in this space, but if this is it,
they're really falling behind. It feels like
they are really falling behind. I think their stock price as well. I can't remember if that's this December, but I saw that this is before Deepseek, I think. All of the other shares were up, and then they were down like 10%. It was like, So they're not the company they were. And I don't know about you, but I've been Apple person for a long time, especially in the phones. I'm already thinking about what are the other options, because the innovation just isn't there anymore with Apple technology. And
I mean, Apple is an incredible company and has been for a long time, like a staple of most homes, it feels like, in the Western world. And you kind of their tech is amazing. Their computers, their phones, it is market leading. I just kind of I really hope that they do jump on and catch up, so to speak. And it's believable given the discussions we've had today. There's no reason why Apple couldn't immediately catch up, especially with their kind of the amount of capital that they have behind them. It'd be interesting to see.
I mean, if you think about all of the other big players, like the Magnificent Seven, Google developing LLM, Microsoft, and in conjunction with OpenAI developing LLMs, Meta got Llama developing an LLM, like all of the other companies. I mean, Amazon, have they got a version, like an e-commerce kind of version? I feel like I've seen something, but
I'm sure I've interacted with something on Amazon.
Yeah, whether that's I'm not sure. So there's Amazon, I guess, is up there, but then got Tesla, or X, should I say, XAI. Like
maybe Apple are, and they're just not talking about it.
Yeah,
maybe they are. I mean, I can't believe for 1 minute that Apple aren't in some way embracing it.
Yeah, but we'll see if they can turn it around and do something. But I'm already wondering. I feel like phones might be up for disruption as well, like at some point. I mean, there's already crypto phones coming out.
Really?
Yeah, there's one called like Solana Mobile, which is like a crypto phone, which is kind of built in digital wallets and digital identification and all that kind of stuff.
If you're into that, I suppose that's quite cool innovation.
It's Android behind the scenes, so it's like an Android device with stuff layered on. So
nice,
additional stuff layered on. So
cool.
There are crypto devices, but I think that about rounds it up for today.
Wow, well, nice and brief.
We could talk way more, isn't it? Lucky we only picked 4 stories to talk about.
Yeah, it was really good though. Really interesting. Can't wait to see what happens in the next week.
Yeah. Any predictions?
I reckon we will see another random, never heard before LLM player come through. Maybe not in the next week, but I do think Apple will come through with something, and Elon will probably come out with some more fun quotes.
I don't think I even quite captured them all last night today. But anyway, thanks very much for watching. If you've not already checked it out, go to sentientmind.io. That is a Skool community where we are building AI products, essentially. So that's SaaS tools, agents, and just looking at the world of agentic AI in general. So it's stuff that we're going to be really pushing and building over the coming months. So feel free to check it out, and if it sounds interesting to you, then feel free to sign up, and we look forward to seeing you on the inside. In the meantime, look forward to seeing you next week.
Nice one. Thanks, Mark.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.